Sarah, good morning. Thank you for being here with us today. You, of course, heard Mr. Powell. I'm sure you heard him say all of those things yesterday as we're trying to square up really the impact of the coronavirus, saying we have to wait and see if it's material. It seems to me that there's no question it will be material. We just don't know perhaps to what degree.
That's right. This virus actually does have quite the potential to really have some big knock-on effects. If you think about certainly the impact, the economic impact on China itself, there is now speculation that that will knock off a couple of points of GDP growth there in terms of how, in terms of how they measure it. But the effects on the U.S. And on the trading partners for China are also really what we have to keep an eye on. You heard Chairman Powell talk about these effects looking to see whether they are persistent and material. That is, in fact, what the Fed will look at. This is, as I see it, really kind of a double whammy because, of course, we're coming out of a situation where trade has been affected by the tariff wars. And now we have this virus to contend with from an economic growth perspective. So I think this is actually a serious headwind.
I think so, too. And I think it's going to be some time before we know. We're so much more interconnected, it seems now, than even we were during the SARS outbreak, both the United States and China, but really China with the rest of the world. And their economy has certainly swelled to be much larger than it was then. But the president, of course, Sarah, also kept up his attacks against Jay Powell. He was tweeting during yesterday's testimony, quote, when Jerome Powell started his testimony today, the Dow was up 125 and heading higher. As he spoke, it drifted steadily downward as usual and is now negative 15. Germany and other countries get paid to borrow money. We are more prime, but Fed rate is too high. Dollar tough on exports. Oh, Sarah, I don't think he's ever going to escape these tweets. He's always going to be criticized, and Trump keeps pushing for this idea of negative rates. What do you make of it all put together? I guess both the president's criticism of Powell and the idea of negative interest rates.
Right. And well, the question of negative interest rates actually got questioned, in the context of the hearing yesterday. And I thought Chairman Powell was particularly articulate in taking negative interest rates off the table. I mean, he has made it clear that that is not going to be a tool in the toolbox that the Fed is likely to use should it need more ammunition. He talked about the use of forward guidance, the use of large-scale asset purchases. Not that these are being contemplated at the moment, but you see the Fed here starting to talk about its usual playbook, should it need it, in terms of more accommodation. So I think the negative interest rate point was handled, pretty clearly by Chairman Powell. That is not going to be a tool that he is contemplating right now. And I think, the president can tweet on as much as he wants about it. It is a tool that has mixed results in terms of its use in other countries. And I think its use in the U.S. is something that is not considered imminent.
Before we go here, Powell did also highlight what he sees as the biggest risk to U.S. growth, cybercrime. If you can just take a minute, we're going to play this for you.
The thing that we worry about a lot is cyber attacks. I think we have a great game plan for traditional, issues like bad loans and things like that. It's more cyber attacks is really the frontier where you worry.
Sarah, what do you think about that? How big of an issue is that? It seems like so many businesses that we talk to at CNBC say, yeah, we're getting attacked basically every day. We've just gotten better at sort of thwarting many of them. But, that's not, at some point, they're going to break through, I should say.
That's right. And the volume and the complexity, the sophistication of these cyber attacks continues to increase. We saw this. I saw this back at my time at Treasury. This was something that is a mounting concern. I think that Chairman Powell is correct in noting that the defensive posture of a lot of financial institutions is actually increasing, and that's a good thing. So from a defensive posture, a lot of the institutions do have good mechanisms in place to thwart the attacks. But in terms of they're coming fast and furious, and they continue. This is a serious headwind. I would have probably answered that question a little differently. I think that there are other big risks on the horizon, and maybe they will get explored today from the Senate side. But in particular, you saw Chairman Powell dodging around a little bit on questions of climate change and financial stability and other, and other kind of risk factors.